The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Webinar. Sind Sie bereit für Paid Content mit Stampen Media? Ich bin der Nickau von WAN-IFRA. Ich bin für unseren Betrieb in Dach und Europa verantwortlich. Erstmals danke an MWM für die Unterstützung heute. Dieses Webinar wird sehr gut angenommen. Wir freuen uns natürlich. Wir gehen heute ziemlich tief in die praktischen Details ein. Man könnte vielleicht genauer fragen, ist Ihre Dateninfrastruktur bereit für Paid Content? Also für mich ist das Thema jedenfalls ganz spannend. Wir kommen gleich dazu. Also da bin ich und meine E-Mail-Adresse. Wir sprechen also heute eine Mischung aus Englisch und Deutsch. Also wir haben den CTO von Stampen Media dabei, deswegen teilweise auf Englisch. Ich bin selber Engländer, natürlich ist das für mich am einfachsten. Mal sehen, wie alles geht, aber ich denke ganz easy. Aber ganz kurz ein paar Themen von unserer Seite. Erstmals unser Bericht wegen Engagement and Retention. Das kann man jederzeit von unserer Website herunterladen. Also die Adresse ist da unten. Und wir schicken die Slides nach dem Webinar heute. Zweitens, unser sogenanntes Media Management Accelerator E-Learning, jetzt mit Untertiteln auf Deutsch. Das war dank an dem Verband Schweizer Medien, aber auch auf Hochdeutsch und nicht Schweizerdeutsch. Und damit bieten wir Fallstudien von 2 weiteren skandinavischen Verlagsunternehmen. A-Media, so hier sieht man Paul Niederrotten von A-Media und auch Aftenbladet, und es gibt da ein ganzes Training zum Thema Paid Content, also ganz relevant. Und schließlich haben wir 2 Konferenzen zum Thema Paid Content in 2019. Also am Anfang April, so Digital Media Europe in Wien, und dann am Ende des Jahres in Frankfurt, also wo wir sind, das WAN-IFRA, also unser Local Digital Subscription Summit. Und das war's von mir. Es dauert heute ungefähr 45 Minuten und danach schicken wir die Slides und auch die Aufnahme rum. Fragen kann man auf Englisch oder Deutsch unter Questions auf der rechten Seite auf GoToWebinar eintippen, und dann können wir die am Ende dann beantworten. Ja, das war's von mir. Der Björn Nickau von MWM macht jetzt weiter mit der Moderation und er kann sich am besten vorstellen. Also, Björn, ich gebe dir Kontrolle.
Ja, guten Tag. Mein Name ist Björn Nickau von der Firma MWM und wir sitzen hier heute zusammen in Stockholm mit dem Andreas Klaren von Stampen, von Verlag Stampen, mit dem Joachim Engmann und der Emma Bakovic. Und wir führen Sie hier durch dieses Webinar heute. Wir haben eine kleine Agenda, erstmal eine kurze Einleitung und Vorstellung von uns, dann der Case von Stampen, wie Stampen heute aufgestellt ist, wie sie die digitale Transformation durchschritten haben, welche Technik und Organisationsänderungen und Ressourcen dazu benötigt haben, wie sie ihre Produkte und Preise gebildet haben. Und dann werde ich danach diesen Präsentationsteil wieder übernehmen und dann nochmal kurz die Zusammenarbeit mit unserer Firma MWM in der Zusammenarbeit mit Stampen darstellen. Da wir heute keine Kamera anhaben, wollten wir uns trotzdem aber einmal vorstellen. Das ist einmal der Andreas Klaren, CTO von Stampen Media in Schweden, in Göteborg. Dann spreche ich heute, Björn Nickau, Projektmanager und Sales Manager von MWM. Und die beiden Media-Experten von MWM, Emma Bakovic und Joachim Engmann, sind auch mit am Tisch, wenn wir nachher fragen und in Details gehen wollen. Dafür sind die beiden mit dabei. So, jetzt übergebe ich das an den Andreas.
Okay, should I start?
Yes.
So I will speak English. Unfortunately, my German is pretty bad, so you will have to accept my English. If I go to next slide, just about Stampen, so we get the background of what we are. We are a family-owned business acquired in 1926, long time ago. We have a geographical area that we operate in, which is based on the Swedish west coast. We have one regional newspaper covering Gothenburg, the second biggest city in Sweden, and we have 5 other local newspapers along the coast. And what recently happened is that the group was recently divided into 2. So we are now one media house, and print houses. Those are 2 separate groups right now, with the same owner structure though, but it's separated. And looking at our digital transformation so far, we have now 206,000 subscribers in total for both print and digital for all titles, which is more or less stable since we started to digitalize our offer with offering digital subscriptions. Out of those, 55,000 are digital-only subscribers, which represent 27% of our customer base. Looking at our customers, 75% of them have a digital account, so they can access the sites and the e-paper. And looking at the digital activity as defined by us, they are visiting some of our sites at least with one impression or something like that. Means 60-65% of our customers with this digital account are active on a weekly basis. Next slide. Looking at how we do and how we operate in terms of development and platforms. So we have a centralized team that I'm running, which manages all the sites and all the development and like the product roadmap and all that. And we do that to scale costs across our titles. And all our titles are on the same platforms. We only do like different CSS configurations in the very top layer. We don't do any logical or no serious development in order to change or to adapt in order for just one title. We have and that is also because we are very limited in team size. I will go to that on. I think we are like now 6 or 8 developers in total in my team. That means we are using more third-party applications than many other media companies do. So we don't. Our strategy is basically that we don't develop what already exists. So we don't develop CMSs, we don't develop ad servers, and all these kind of things that I know some of the media groups have been interested in developing. So our focusing is on the UX layer, which means that what the customer sees, that this is the layer that we want to own. The rest of it, all the business logics on that, we work with partners. And basically, we want to work through APIs in order to have this like an efficient setup. And yeah, so we manage our product roadmap, but we then on looking at on the third-party suppliers, they manage their own roadmap. So we don't have to put all efforts into driving development in all aspects. So we cover what we do, and then we influence the roadmap of the other of the suppliers. So looking at also how we offer our products, that is basically the same across titles as well. We have this premium access to our websites where we have some articles behind paywalls. The second in the middle is like then we add e-paper. There are some digital crosswords and Sudoku included in that, and there's to a higher price point, of course. And then we have digital and print, which is basically adding print either 7 days a week or 6 days a week for some titles, or on weekend only. So these are the same structure we have across our titles. And looking at when we started to do this, we were kind of the latest one in Sweden to go on with paywalls. We went through a financial reconstruction that year. So when many others had been running paywalls for a long time, maybe since 2013 or something, we started to do a lot of benchmark like Q4 2016. We met a lot of media companies across Sweden and Finland and Norway to get all these benchmark numbers that you want to have when you set things up. So we learned a lot about what kind of content that worked well and what didn't work. We knew that at least 40% of our material needed to be behind paywalls in order to get some impact on conversions and sales. We also benchmarked how they did all these marketing and communication and go-to-market strategy. So and what technical setup and platform that was required in order to run a business like this. So going to next slide. This is a bit of a timeline, what we have done and where we are right now. So on the top, above this timeline, you can see some of the iterations we have done in order to launch things. And that has been a very iterative approach, an agile approach to do things. And below the timeline, you can see how we are building these insight solution in insights platforms and the steps we have taken and some milestones that we have achieved in that. So 2017 for us was basically, we use this Copy with Pride. It's a former corporate mission from my previous employer, Tele2. But that is what we did during that year. Copied from these other learnings we got from other media companies. We took basically everything that the other ones have done and did it ourselves. So we had like this strategy shift in early 2017 to go to B2C revenues. Before that, we have been pushing like B2B revenues and a reach model more, go for a bigger audience. And then we changed. We saw that advertising will be a bit tricky in the future because already back then, or like since more than 5 years, I guess, Facebook, Google, and Twitter, they've been taking 95% of the growth in digital. So the need for an how to say sustainable business model going for B2C revenues was like a requisite for going forward. So we got also a new CEO in February who was really pushing that we were going to launch these sites with paywalls. So what you see in June, that was our first paywall plus MVP. There's 2 titles that we did. Plus means that this is the digital access to our websites with premium content. So we took 1 site, 2 sites in the beginning, and we saw that some of the KPIs that we had benchmarked were met, and then we launched all other titles as well, ending in December with the GP, the Gothenburg newspaper, which is the biggest one, the regional one. At that time, we didn't have any insights about customers. We didn't have any insights about how to say on individuals or topics or what how to correlate readers with what kind of content and behavior. This was basically Google Analytics stats we had to do to analyze. But at the same time, we went to MWM, which has been at that time been working with one of the biggest and most successful companies in Sweden with digital subscriptions. And we talked with these guys, and we did a pre-study about this insight solution and insights platform starting in between February and March. And basically, we had an idea what we wanted to do, and with their insights from and experience and skills from previous projects, they could pretty much confirm that we were on the right track, and they added some things to it as well. So we started a project in May 2017. To set this up, and the project was ending in December. We had the final project closure in December 2017 as well. So it was a pretty quick project to get things going. However, when you gather a lot of information from a lot of systems, all these legacy systems, you do a lot of findings in terms of data quality. So we had 2 different systems where we had like digital subscribers in one solution and print subscribers in another one. And when we try to build this up to individuals, we're having, instead of having like a customer ID in a system, we try to build individuals into one system instead. A lot of this 2018 had to do with this cleanup of data and make consistency and try to build individuals. But as you can see, we also did a lot of other things. We did some kind of a dashboards in the beginning of 2018. We started to do marketing automation based on behavioral data in March, and we hired our first data scientist, the first and only. We still have only one, but in March we started to look at how to use this data in order to predict churn. Because one thing when you start with digital subscribers is acquisition is one thing, but keeping them is a completely different business. And so that was the intention of having this churn index and to work with that. And I will speak a bit later about that. And then when we also looked at our data quality, when we wanted to look at what kind of topics were readers interested in different segments, we also found out that we didn't have like a tagging structure that was complete. All our journalists could write their own tags, which meant there were wrong spelling, and there was no really clue or idea on how to structure data to make analysis. So we started a project also in August where we had like an auto tagging. So when a journalist writes an article, it automatically tags in a structure that we have predefined. And then since then we have basically in this M365, which we call our Insight solution, supported by MWM, we added a lot of features, building a lot of these performance tables in order to get this data out of the systems in an easy way. And we have continued this 2019 in order to democratize or to spread data across the organization, because we don't want to have data only in like one department, or we want to spread the data to as many people as possible in the organization. So reporting is something, reporting dashboards and interactive reports and more of this data model segmentation and analysis, that is where we are right now in what we see now. So going to the next slide, this a bit describes what Media 365 is for us. It's the center of our business going forward. And what we do is that we have our print subscribers in a solution called InfoSoft. We have Payway, where we have a login authentication, our digital subscribers. And from all these systems, the dynamic yield is something where we collect behavioral data, and there's a personalization engine there as well. So we bring all this data or metadata into one system. Even this article data or metadata related to that, in order to make analysis and try to connect what kind of readers or reader segments are interested in certain kind of topics and articles. We also have connected to an email and marketing automation platform named Rule, where we also in Media 365 collect whether a user have responded to an email or not. And because of that, we can also make like analysis of if we are sending mails to target customers with high churn risk, we could potentially see if they are reading our emails or if they're taking part of our messages, in order to see if that has an impact or not on churn. So that will help our organization to develop. The output from Media 365 is basically what we talked about before, was this marketing automation and new campaigns opportunities that we can get. Before we were working pretty much like on a winter and summer and autumn campaign, and now we can do a lot more based on all these data that we have. We can do micro campaigns, we can do special campaigns to target to different kind of audiences. So we have a lot of more flexibility in order to drive our business. And that is especially important when you look at digital. For print, maybe these 4 campaigns or that structure we had before would be enough, but for digital it's not. Also, we can get out of this is all these editorial insights. From the logged in users, we can actually see if there are like men 45 to 54 or women the same age, or what kind of topics they are related to. Before we only had like Google Analytics, and that was we could get a lot of findings for that as well, but we couldn't connect it to like more individual data or like other parameters than just page views or topics that was working. So that is also an insight when we go forward in order to grow, because now we have attracting a certain kind of audience, and going forward, is that the right audience we want to have, or do we want to change the audience? So that is also like a decision, some kind of decision material for us in order to move forward. Also, what you can do with all this data is to improve our product and user experience. There are a lot of more of these personalization opportunities and recommendations based on what you have done before and all that. Long term, we can see we haven't been working on that as yet. There are a lot of companies in the Scandinavian market who has been doing it. From us, it's a pure prioritization issue. That means that we are building our business first and trying to acquire and grow our subscription base before we do anything with exchanging data and going to like data exchanges with other media houses. And this is a lot of things that, as we say, a lot of things, there's a question about GDPR. And yes, this solution is GDPR compliant. And what we do over here is that also Media 365 works as if a customer doesn't want to be in our system or we should forget about it, through Media 365 we propagate all the other solutions to say forget this user. So it's a very simple tool for us to manage GDPR in that sense. Looking at the staff we have had, this is just an example of how things have been running. Since we started the project in May 2017, it's actually now less than 2 years we've been since we started the project, and we have achieved a lot, I think. And this is the resources that we have had during the project, during this these 19 or 20, 21 months. Sorry for that. Less than 2 people from MWM that has been working on that, unless we haven't had a project, especially dedicated project, GDPR or something else that we have done. And from our side, we have had in average and half resource internally for big data and doing that. So looking at this, if I benchmark other media houses, I can tell you that they are using a lot more resources than we have done so far. And a bit how we have structured this work. We have a layer which we call like data engineering, where we collect our data and we make sure it's the right quality and store this in the right way. We have an API layer that we have been working on in order to have other systems communicate with the platform, the Insight solution. And then again, we have this aggregation to make aggregation and performance tables or layer. That means that the data is available for to create simpler reports. On top of that, we have the analytics layer, which is basically this data science and prediction models. We have, as I mentioned, we have done the churn index. We will come up with an engagement index as well, and we will create the similar for the e-paper. As for now, we have been focusing a lot of this premium access to web, because of this is where we have the highest churn. So this is the most critical for our business. But we will continue to make more like data models for the other products as well. And on top of that, we have all these dashboards and interactive reports, which is basically to spread these numbers and learnings from data throughout the organization. And how we have done this is, as I mentioned, from 2018 or something, this data engineering part has been like the thing that we've been focusing most on. And that is due to the limitation of the data we have had from running and create more models, as we didn't have one of the biggest site wasn't launched until December 17. And this is how we work. MVM is taking care of a lot of this data engineering part. On our side, we want to own like business intelligence and data science, even though we cooperate a lot with MWM in that matter as well. But this is something that I see this is critical for our own knowledge and our own business to have like to have control of the conclusions and the analysis, because that is the part of the core business that we're doing. And on the dashboard side, MWM is taking care of a lot of these things. And I am as well running this from our side, and I also had like a project manager who has been running a lot of these issues regarding partners, how to get this data out and all that. And also that guy is a specialist on the GDPR. So I believe that one of the things that we have based on what we have achieved so far, and looking at these numbers of resources or headcount we have used, I can see that there's a value. I've been working with someone who has been experienced in this area. The starting point has been very, it went very quick. When we first had our meetings with MWM, they knew exactly what we were aiming at or talking about. So I would say that building this on our own would have been a lot more trickier, because there are many pitfalls that occurs along the way. And I think that working with someone who has experience in this helps a lot if you have if time is a critical issue for you. All right, so where we are right now is that if you look at solving all these data quality issues, that is challenging. But then again, when you get all this data, you realize that there are a lot of more questions. The more data you get, the more questions arises. And the more questions you have, the more you realize how little you know. And then it comes up with, where do you start with all this in order to build our business? And then in the end, where you want to go. So for us, it has been also a part of this business is these confusing times when you get access to all this data. How do you structure your way forward? Just looking at the audiences, let's say we have more men in this age, or that, is that where you want to be, or do you want to be somewhere else? Or how does your growth strategy look like? So we started to look at a model, how we take it from there. And that was basically, we looked at our visitors on our platforms, and we tried to identify certain blocks. And there's like 4 blocks that I have over there. So we have first the anonymous visitors, we have the loyal subscribers, and what we call the high churn risk subscribers, and the ones who have canceled. So there are 4 questions. What in the anonymous visitors, what kind of readers visit us but don't pay? And then you have like EPM, stands for editorial, product, and marketing. So there are some things that in order to convert these anonymous, obviously, since they are still anonymous, there are some changes that probably is required in editorial to make them subscribe. And also, is there any issues with the product? Is there like payment issues, or I don't know what could be the cases, but there might be something that you want to look at there. As well as marketing, as they don't pay, obviously, our product or our offer is not worth it for them to continue. So what kind of things do we need to change in order to make that happen? Same question comes up for loyal subscribers. And then you have like maybe divide that into 2. We're saying that, okay, let's say we find out who are the most loyal. Do we want to achieve success by going for more of the same that we have, or do we want to achieve new segments? And then you go again, if you want to get new segments, then obviously you probably need to change some in your editorial content mix in order to make them be subscribers, because what we have now is obviously not enough. Also look at product changes and marketing offer, if that might change. Let's say we want to go for students. Are they willing to pay the same price as the other customers do, or they want to pay something else? So these are like questions that we want to ask. And also these high churn customers, basically the same things that we need to do when the cancel ones. So if I look at that, we have looked at a bit of this churn risk. So we started right now to make analysis of the loyal subscribers. And I can see now on your presentation, the staples are missing. In my presentation in English, it's there. Anyhow, these are our 6 titles. And the number in the brackets, 41% for title 1, 38, is the number of loyal readers we have for this premium access web. And when we did this, we saw like a finding that, and you can see this in the diagram, so I will tell you that. But for all our titles, we attract more men than women, and that is more significant in the younger audience. And we can also see that for our premium web, the age group 45 to 54 is the biggest one. And what we see also in this, the title number 3, they have the lowest number of loyal customers in their base for this premium web access. So we did this analysis when we looked at what kind of content that was targeting what kind of topics that different kind of segments were interested in. And then we did another survey to look at how the article consumption looked at by looking at subscription type. And Plus is the digital offer we have. E-paper is, as you know what that is. Print, that means weekend print, that is having print on weekdays, and daily print means 7 days a week or 6 days a week, depending on our calendar. What we saw in this title 3 that had the least loyal subscribers was that actually in the red mark you can see the number of articles in average they had for Plus. For the other titles, the Plus was had the biggest number of articles consumption, but for this paper we can see that this is the lowest number of all. We could also see that there's a correlation between age and article consumption for Plus, which is obvious, but not for the other ones. So that makes us lead to, when we also did some findings about this title 3, we saw that these are actually the paper in our group that has most print focus. It's a company that or a newspaper that wants to write articles that will fit into print more than the others. So when we presented this to the publisher, based on all this data we can get out of M365, we can also see that probably we are doing the Plus product should target a younger audience and should be our growth engine, but obviously it's not the growth machine that we want for this title because they consume less articles than the others. So this might be something that will lead us to saying, do we need a cultural change in this newspaper and this title, or do we need also to change the workflows even more than we have today in order to make them produce more content regardless of what kind of format that you do it in. This was based on 1 month data. We are not sure that this is enough, but this is ideas on how we can use the data in order to change our business. We will make more studies about this, like take 2-3 more months to make the same analysis and see if this pattern was just not a coincidence, but it's a fact. But it was something that this publisher, that newspaper, looked at and was agreeing to that, shit, we might need to do something about this. This is one example of how to use data and Technik forward. The next thing we have done with all this data is it's a tool in order for the editors. We're using a CMS called based on a Swedish platform developed by Infomaker, and it's pretty open. You can develop own plugins to this tool. So we decided to make a tool for the editors in order to see what kind of efforts are we making producing articles, and how does that correspond to any kind of results or achievements in terms of audience and consumption. So in this case, we have on the x-axis number of published articles, and on the vertical axis we have number of published articles. On the horizontal axis we have conversions per article. So this is a tool where they can filter on different kind of tags in this structured tag tree we have, saying that I want to see TV, all articles related to TV, how do they perform? All articles related to this sports team, how do they perform? So in this case, we can see that In the left, top left of this diagram with all these balls, you can see that we are producing a lot of articles that is not leading to any conversions. And then you can see the more you get to the right, the more conversions you get and all that. And if you click on one of these bubbles, then you can see to the right, you know, this is a football team. There you can see how this team guys correlates to football in terms of age and in terms of gender. If that is any differences in if guys would be, this football team would be more interesting for younger audience than football as such, or if there is something different in that. Also at the bottom you will get all articles related to this tag, where you can see how many, the average reading time, you have conversions, page views, gender distribution, age distribution. So you can basically sort this list saying that I want to see all articles in sports that females are reading more than 50%, or I want to see this article that has most reading times. So I can sort this table at the bottom based on all these columns we have, in order for the editorial to get input of how they focus their resources, or how to change something that we see is obvious but we don't get the right impact on. The horizontal axis could also be changed to see like number of logged in users, and also like page views per article in general. This is hopefully going live as a beta this week. I look at Joachim here at the MWM, but we hope it will be there. Then again, we have a lot of these real-time dashboards, and we can see that this is number of new customers the latest week, 809 total paying customers. That's what we have right now, and counter the customers that have canceled their contracts. And then you can see that men, women, and age group, and how that looks like. And you can filter this by product and titles and all that. There's a lot of more dashboards. It's not part of the presentation, but there are a lot of more data that you could look at in order to go forward. So looking at technology, in order to have all these conclusions and to make this, to have an impact on business, it wouldn't be possible if we had like various sources for these, all this data. You need to gather it and put it together in order to build like these profiles and all that. And as any other company, we have a lot of these legacy systems, but starting to change these ones are typically a very long project. So even though we had like a year or a half a year where we focused a lot on this data quality, I would still recommend to get started before changing all this other system, because that is something that will happen sooner or later anyhow. And of course, it's important to build this insight as quick as possible. But then again, building insights, getting data and understanding data is one thing, and insights is actually another thing. Because data will not tell you what to do. It will just highlight an issue or highlight something that is good or bad. And what you will do with this data is the creativity in your organization. So your organization needs to be prepared in order to look at data and to get these conclusions. And also, like what we do, we always try to be like agile or like in iterations, and you know, change things along the way where you see that is required. The important thing that we're building is you have a good data structure in the bottom that is flexible enough to handle all these changes. And then the last slide was, yeah, what is important basically, or yeah, you need to highlight certain kind of KPIs that is important for your business. And we had, when we started, we defined 5 KPIs that we were tracking and had benchmarked across titles and made dashboards on TV screens in these different organizations. Data quality is of course important, and the more you build automatic automation or marketing automation on top of that, it gets more and more important as well, as you start to target messages, and that requires that data is correct, the underlying data is correct. campaigns is, of course, as I mentioned before, and all this content development based on this data and insights that you might get, which I tried to highlight before with this title 3 in our group. All right, that was basically what I had to say about our process and where we are in this digital transformation state right now. So if there are any questions or something, I don't know if you should have them now or...
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Andreas. I mean, before we come back to Björn, we've got a lot of good questions here. So one question from the beginning was, how did you benchmark yourselves when you were starting?
How we benchmarked?
Yeah.
If you look at since we are a very local newspaper, the competition in our market, where in Gothenburg on the distribution area we are, it's not like the other media companies are in the same area. So the local newspaper market or the morning papers market, it's pretty much divided into geographical areas and groups. And in this case, the climate of exchanging ideas was very open. Everyone had the same interest, because for us, like being a part of the democratic society, having newspapers, free press, and all that, that is important for all news media in the country, and I guess in the Western world at least. So we didn't see that we are not competing with the other one by changing ideas, and that is also why I can be open with you. We see that this is a common for the industry. It's in everyone's interest that people are actually paying for content in order to have like a sustainable business model, and in order to have like being part of one of the cornerstones in the democratic society. So people or organizations or our peers or competitors or media colleagues or whatever you want to call them, everyone has been pretty open in the Swedish and in the Nordic market about their learnings so far. So that's what's the reason why we got all this information. And also like personal relations has, of course, always an importance. And I've been in the industry for, I don't know, I'm too old. I've been in the industry since '96, so I have a lot of contacts as well, and other people have that as well. But the general idea is that no one benefits in this market to try to, unless you're competing. But since we are not like a national newspaper, we're not competing with the national ones. There was nothing that if we do this, that doesn't mean anyone else get a loss. Like it's a win-win for everyone to change ideas.
Okay, so just two more questions, and we can take maybe some more right at the end. So one question, you had a really good slide on what the different roles are. Some of the data scientists and UX, etc. Could you say roughly how many people you have just working on the paid content side? And
how do you mean?
So you talked about some of the roles in the organization. So on the technical side, could you say roughly how many people you have?
Which slide are you looking at? Which slide are you looking at? If you can refer to that, because I don't get.
Okay, let's go back. It's where you do. It is slide number 12, where you say organization and resources. So you have internal.
Okay, so basically it says there, MVM in this data engineering, it says 1 FTE, 1 full-time employed internal big data engineer. So that is part of my team. And then I have this 1 FTE full-time employee with this internal data project and product manager. He helps to coordinate with all these other suppliers. He's a GDPR expert. He does a lot of these projects in order to make this work. So FTE means full-time employee. So in that part, I have my internal resources are 2 people in that area. And then on top of that, on the analytics layer, there is 1 FTE in my team that is a business analyst. It's not a fully employed, but she's working with a lot of other things as well. But the data scientist is 1 FTE, 1 full-time employee to handle that. And as I mentioned with MWM, it's about 2 resources in average unless we have dedicated projects in order to maintain and to develop the product or the solution in itself. So MVM adds 2 resources on the data engineering and the access part, more or less.
Okay, thanks. And one more question. I don't know if Björn has some more to add. So, can you talk about which? Because you had the slide in Swedish, but can you talk about what kind of content has been successful for you in converting new subscribers? Some examples, maybe. Or?
As we are operating on a local market, it's very much the local flavor of everything. And I don't have. We did this before. I can come back with it, but right now I don't have exactly what is converting now or something like that. I know that there are some, like, typically what affects your local life is important. Like, could be crime stories. We have done some long read formats that has been very successful. And when we looked at these the numbers on editorial on, for instance, on the regional newspaper, where we saw that we attracted more men than women, all of a sudden the editorial team sat together and said, "Oh shit, how do we reach more women?" And they started to look at new angles in how to do things. And only from that insight, or from that kind of data, they created content that was actually converting the best that week, that was targeting a female audience in their mind. In reality, it wasn't only female who bought the articles. It wasn't like that, but they had this input to be more creative and to find new angles and telling stories in another way that we had done before, or to bring topics that we hadn't written so much about before.
Thanks, that's really, really interesting. So we've got more questions, but I'll hand back to Björn, and then we can come back to some of these at the end.
Okay.
Ja, okay. Ich erzähle noch mal kurz am Ende ein bisschen was über die Zusammenarbeit zwischen Stampen und MWM. Das ist ja so, bei der digitalen Transformation gibt es letztlich 3 Stadien, in denen sich die Kunden oder die Medienhäuser befinden. Und das ist einerseits diese Start-up-Phase, in der man sich über die Strategie unterhält, über die Produktausrichtung, Schaffung neuer Produkte, Technik überdenkt und auch Organisationsstrukturen überdenkt und anpasst. Und diese Sachen geschehen dann nicht jetzt von jetzt auf gleich, sondern in einer Phase, bis man dann sozusagen up and running ist. Und in diesem Stadium bearbeitet man dann hauptsächlich diese Datenqualität, also dass man eine gute Datenqualität hat, konsistente Daten, um halt letztendlich Marketing Automation auch schon durchführen zu können. Und das Ganze mündet dann, wenn man weiter das konsequent betreibt, in eine datengetriebene Organisation, die ihre Arbeitsweise mit Hilfe von Dashboards, Reporten oder auch künstlicher Intelligenz daraufhin angepasst hat, datengetrieben Entscheidungen zu finden und Produkte auszurichten und einfach auch Sachen dahingehend zu steuern. Es ist ja immer so, dass ein Individuum in den Systemen, bei den Verlagen, in den verschiedenen Systemen gehalten wird. Also ein Individuum kann in zig verschiedenen Systemen auftauchen. Und es gilt letztendlich, diese mehrfachen, häufig gleichen oder ähnlichen Daten eines alle personenbezogenen und alle, dass man ein ganzheitliches Bild über dieses Individuum bekommt, durchgängig durch alle Systeme. Und dass da eine Quelle für verwendet werden kann, nachher für weitere Maßnahmen. Und MWM unterstützt in diesem Fall auf 2 Arten. Einerseits ist das die Beratung, indem wir den Kunden helfen, eigene Lösungen zu entwickeln und Best-Practice-Verfahren der Branche, und unser Branchenwissen anzuwenden, um halt mit kostenpflichtigen Inhalten beginnen zu können. Und zusätzlich können wir diese Media 365-Lösung etablieren und liefern, was ein cloud-basierter Dienst ist. Das ist letztlich ein Data Warehouse, in dem alle Daten aus verschiedenen vorhandenen Systemen halt aggregiert und gesammelt werden. Und so erhält man eine 360-Grad Customer View und kann halt mit Realtime-Dashboards und Reporten auch direkt auf publizierte Artikel reagieren oder auch die Effekte sehen, die dort sich einstellen und wie das angenommen wird vom Publikum oder von den Lesern. Wir können dort die künstliche Intelligenz und Marketing Automation Tools mit einführen und um halt diese Lösung abzurunden. Bei Stampen haben wir, das ist diese Integration haben wir dort durchgeführt. Also wir haben links halt dieses Payway-Tool, das ist ein Paywall-Tool und Digital Subscription-Tool. Das Dynamic Yield zur Aufnahme des digitalen Verhaltens aus Homepages oder Sites und Apps nehmen wir dort auf. Wir nehmen die Print-Subscriptions auf, die Annoncen und auch die Prolopoly hier oben, das ist das CMS-System. All diese Daten fließen aggregiert in das Media 365 Data Warehouse ein, sodass wir dort dann das auch rausgeben können, diese Daten an automatisiertes, an Marketing-Automation, also in diesem Fall ist das Rule, das System, und auch entsprechende Dashboards und Reporte mit Microsoft Power BI erzeugen können. Wir kriegen sozusagen dann eine 360-Grad-Kunden-View. Hier hat sich unser Kollege, der Joachim Engmann, zur Verfügung gestellt mit seinen Daten. Und wir kriegen da diese sämtliche demografischen Daten angezeigt, das digitale Profil und auch gleich den Gesamtumsatz des Kunden. Weiter sehen wir Interessen und Aktivitäten von ihm. Also er hat zum Beispiel jetzt in den letzten 30 Tagen 40 Artikel gelesen. Man kriegt dort angezeigt, welche Artikel er gelesen hat und wie aktiv er über den letzten Monate, über die letzten 30 Tage war. An einigen Tagen war er mehr aktiv, an einigen Tagen gar nicht. Durchschnittliche Lesezeit, 24 Sekunden hat er pro Artikel, also liest schnell oder man kann unten, diese bunten Felder sind halt ist eine Anzeige über die Interessen, welche Themenbereiche ihn hauptsächlich interessieren. Und danach kann man halt dann auch automatisiertes Marketing machen. Und dieses Tracking dieser Daten ist halt wichtig, um letztendlich ein personalisiertes Lesererlebnis zu schaffen, dass man weiß, was der einzelne Kunde für Präferenzen und Interessen hat. So kann man zum Beispiel diese Stammdaten auch für das Marketing Automation nutzen. Links ist hier jetzt gezeigt, dass ein Kunde längere Zeit inaktiv war und dann fordert man ihn einfach nochmal auf, ob er nochmal die letzten Neuigkeiten gelesen hat. Oder rechts zum Beispiel, wenn ein Kunde ein Abonnement beendet hat, dass man einen vernünftigen Abschluss auch automatisiert hinbekommt. Dass es zwar schade ist, dass das Abo jetzt beendet ist, aber es ist auch jederzeit neu, ein neues Abo einzugehen. Das Ganze mit den Dashboards und mit dem Tracken der Daten und gerade mit dem Blick auf die KPI, also diese Kennzahlen, diese Key Performance Indicators, mittels dieser Dashboards und der Berichte. Darüber gewinnt man halt eine Menge Erkenntnisse von entscheidender Bedeutung, um halt dem Kunden ein Produkt zu bieten, was heftet oder so ein sticky Product, dass man das erschafft. Halt einfach ein attraktives Produkt für den Kunden, was den Kunden attrahiert. Und das ist steuerbar und das ist erreichbar, indem man diese diese Key Performance Indicators, also diese Kennzahlen, dass man denen halt folgt und dort seine Schlüsse draus zieht. Ja, das war das nochmal ganz kurz zusammengefasst von uns aus, von MWM, was wir mit Stampen zusammen gemacht haben. Sie können uns auch gerne kontaktieren und wir schicken ja diese Präsentation nachher auch noch raus an die Teilnehmer. Und jetzt haben wir auch noch Zeit für Fragen.
Okay, thanks, Björn, and thanks again, Andreas. We have a huge number of questions, so actually, I'm probably some of them I think we'll answer after this call, but we'll send hopefully maybe with you and Andreas you could answer a few more. But one good question, because you just showed the dashboards. Yeah, how do you encourage the editorial side to accept these dashboards? And I think the question was also saying, especially with a certain age of editor that's maybe not used to looking at this data.
I think actually looking at data, that has been since we changed our focus to, now we are doing a lot this quality journalism. Like 3 years ago, we were more into this social content and a bit more viral, which most of the journalists is not that, especially maybe the ones that have been there for a long time, not really used to. So when we change the direction and go towards like quality journalism, and more like going to the analysis and all that part, I think that most people are actually interested in the data and how things perform. So that hasn't been an issue to motivate editors or journalists to look at like performance of how things are going, because most of these journalists are now proud of our product. They like our product, and they want to make sure that it works as well for the readers.
Yeah, that's a good. I think one of the differences we haven't talked about so much is that, I think you talked about having 75% of your print customers online, or sometimes going online. Was that right?
They had a digital account.
Yeah.
So also print customers has digital account in our. When you pay for print, you get digital access as well. So that is why they get the digital for free. Yeah. So it's a digital account. And out of those who has a digital account, so about 65% were active on a weekly basis.
And I think that's the huge difference with Germany, and I think that's the quality of data that you've got versus some of the colleagues on this call. So, but we said we were aiming for 45 minutes on this call, and we're almost at an hour. So, and Andreas, I mean, if you were happy to answer some additional questions, I could send you these after the call.
Yes,
that would be fantastic, because we've got some really good questions from people, a lot of engagement, but also we have a time limit and people have to get back to work. So yeah, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you
for joining us. Thanks to MWM and to Björn and for all of the translations. Ja, einfach vielen Dank und ich wünsche Ihnen alle einen schönen Abend und Nachmittag.
Nachmittag. Okay. Vielen Dank.
Gleich Abend. Dann. Ciao.
Ja.